The algorithm does not read your mind. It reads your trail. One pause, one skip, one rewatch, one search you barely remember. To you, these are tiny moments. To a recommendation system, they are signals. This video explains why algorithms seem to know what you want, not because they understand you deeply, but because they test your behavior faster than you notice. The creepy feeling starts when your feed shows something you were just thinking about. It feels personal, it feels almost psychic. But the real mechanism is colder and more mechanical. The system does not need you to say, I like this. It can learn from what you finish, what you abandon, and what makes you hesitate. Recommendation systems use signals like watch history, search history, subscriptions, likes, dislikes, explicit feedback, and satisfaction responses. That is the first hidden layer. Your feed is not built only from what you choose, it is built from what you reveal. Even silence can become information. A pause can say, test more, like this. A skip can say, reduce this path. But one person's signals are not powerful on their own. The power comes from comparison. YouTube says its recommendation system compares your viewing habits with people who behave similarly, learning from more than 80 billion signals. That means the algorithm does not need a perfect portrait of who you are. It can ask a simpler question. People who acted like this, what did they watch next? If thousands of similar trails moved in one direction, your feed may test that direction on you. And if you react, the next test changes. But the system is not choosing your next video from the entire internet in one magical step. First, it finds possible candidates. Then it ranks them. A known YouTube recommendation paper describes this as two separate stages: candidate generation and ranking. So your feed is not a simple list. It is a funnel. The system narrows the world, scores the options, then decides what is most worth testing next. Different surfaces can use different signals. A homepage may lean heavily on your history. A next video slot may lean heavily on what you are watching now. That is why one session can suddenly bend the feed in a new direction. TikTok describes its For You feed as ranking videos through user interactions, video information, and device or account settings. It even says completing a longer video can be a stronger signal than some weaker context signals. Meta describes its systems as making many predictions about what value a piece of content might have for you. Its feed ranking system is described as using more than 100 prediction models. Instagram engineering has also described recommendation infrastructure scaled across more than 1,000 machine learning models across surfaces and use cases. So when people say the algorithm, they often imagine one brain, but in reality, it is closer to a factory of predictions. And every prediction needs feedback. The feed shows you something, waits for your reaction, then updates the next move. It is not asking, what is your true personality? It is asking, which option made you act? A fast skip is not just a failed recommendation, it is new information. A rewatch can be even louder. Explicit feedback is one of the clearest signals because you are finally telling the system what not to test. Platforms also use satisfaction feedback, which matters because watch time alone is not the whole story. A system that only chased screen time could become too crude, too repetitive, and eventually less useful. That is why the feed can feel predictable, then suddenly show something outside the pattern. The exact weights are private and constantly changing, so nobody outside the platforms should pretend to know the full formula. The safe way to understand it is not as magic, but as documented signals feeding prediction systems. This is why one click can seem to change everything. The system may not conclude, this person loves luxury. A safer explanation is that it starts testing neighboring paths. If you skip them, the path can weaken. If you stay, the path can expand. The feed feels like it made a personal discovery, but it may only be following a chain of reactions. That is also why personalization can feel unstable. It is not one final answer about you. It mixes longer term habits with short term signals from the session you are in right now. Sometimes your history dominates. Sometimes your last few reactions pull the wheel. And this explains why algorithms can still be wrong. A wrong recommendation does not prove the system knows nothing. It proves the system is still testing. Your feed is not a fixed portrait of you. It is a moving prediction built from your past behavior, your current session, and the behavior of people who look statistically similar. That is the final twist. The algorithm does not need to know what you truly want. It only needs to keep finding what you are likely to do next. And because it can test, measure, and reshuffle so quickly, the result feels intimate. Not because the machine sees your soul, because before you understand your own next click, the system has already tested the path toward it. The feed is not mind reading, it is behavior, comparison, prediction, and speed.